Hi, this is Miss Smith, and I'm going to go over the Chapter 3 pre-assessment, which is actually the same as the Chapter 3 practice test. So let's go ahead and begin. Please review any question that you need help with. So number 1 asks you to write an integer to describe each situation. So we want to know what an integer is first. So an integer is a positive or negative whole number including 0. So examples of integers would be 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Notice they have to be whole numbers. So with these problems, they just really want you to know whether or not a situation represents a positive or a negative value. So if I'm putting money into the bank, deposit, that means that my account grows by $45. So this would be a positive 45. Okay, the opposite of deposit would be withdrawal. So if they asked you for a withdrawal, that means you're taking money out. So that would be the negative. So every integer has an opposite. So the opposite of deposit is withdrawal. So deposit is positive 45 and withdrawal would be negative 45. All right, let's look at number 2, 5 degrees below 0. Well, since this temperature is below 0, it's going to actually have a negative value. So negative 5 degrees Celsius. A loss of 15 yards in yards. Well, if it's a loss, that means that you have a negative value and you lost 15 yards, so it would be negative 15 yards. Okay, the opposite of losing 15 yards would of course be gaining 15 yards. That would be the opposite or the positive. But we don't want positive 15 because they're asking you how to write a loss of 15 yards. So that's negative. All right, evaluate each expression. So number 4, you have to do the absolute value of negative 11. So absolute value just means the distance away from 0. So if you are at 11 on a number line, let's say that this is 11, and you wanted to walk to 0, this would actually be 11 spaces. So the absolute value of 11 is 11. All right, number 5, be careful with these. Let me erase some of this stuff here. Number 5, go back to draw. All right, we want to be careful with these problems. The absolute value of 4 plus the absolute value of negative 6. We want to do the absolute value first. So we'll go ahead and take the absolute value of 4, which is 4, because 4 is 4 spaces away from 0. Okay, bring this positive down. And now we have the absolute value of negative 6. Well, negative 6 is 6 spaces away from 0. So now we have this problem without the absolute value, and it's just 4 plus 6. So the answer was 10. Make sure you're understanding the explanations. And if you need to hear it again, feel free to rewind. All right, let's do number 6. I'll erase number 5. So erase, erase, erase. All right, let's go ahead and do number 6. All right, be careful once again. The absolute value of negative 8 minus the absolute value of negative 3. Once again, first take the absolute value. Notice there's only one number in this absolute value symbol, so we can go ahead and take the absolute value. The absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. This minus sign is not in the absolute value, so we're going to bring that down. And the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. All right, 8 minus 3 is 5. So the answer is 5. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to draw a quick problem here. Let's see. I don't need that. All right, I'm going to do another problem here. The absolute value of negative 6 plus 4. All right. If you have something like this where you have more than one number in the absolute value, first you have to figure out what negative 6 plus 4 is. Well, the negative team won by 2 points, so negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. And then now that we have one value in the absolute value symbol, we can go ahead and take the absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. All right. That was not on your practice test, but that's good to know. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. We're making good time. Let's do number 7. Erase, erase, erase. Alright, number 7. Let's see. Alright, the temperature in Athens was 30 degrees. 5 minutes later, it was 20 degrees. What is the average change in temperature in degrees Fahrenheit per minute as an integer? So we want to know how much did this temperature change every minute. Alright, well, in order to figure out how much it changed every minute, first we have to figure out how much it changed. Well, originally it was 30 degrees. Then 5 minutes later it was 20 degrees. So the temperature changed by 10 degrees in 5 minutes. Well, we don't want to know. The final answer is not how many degrees did the temperature change in 5 minutes. It's how many degrees did the temperature change per minute. So I'm going to go ahead and write this up here. If the temperature drops 10 degrees Fahrenheit in 5 minutes, we can just simply divide to find the unit rate. Well, let's go ahead and divide, and we're going to get 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So the temperature changed by 2 degrees, but let's make sure we put a negative here because it went down 10 degrees. So the temperature change is it's going down by 2 degrees Fahrenheit every minute. So make sure you don't have a positive, because a positive would mean it's going up 2 degrees every minute, which is not the case. Alright, let's erase. Alright, let's go ahead and do problem number 8. The upper atmosphere of Neptune can get as cold as negative 218 degrees Celsius. So let's draw that. If this is 0 degrees Celsius, let's go down 218. So let's call this negative 218 degrees Celsius. Okay. Alright, so it can get as cold as negative 218. Well, the inner core of the planet can be as hot as 7,000 degrees Celsius. So the lowest temperature it is negative 218. So it's negative, so it's below 0. But the hottest it gets is 7,000. So let's just call this 7,000 degrees Celsius. Alright, what is it asking us? What is the difference in degrees Celsius between the two temperatures? Alright, well, what is the difference? Difference means what's the distance between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature. Okay, so how many degrees is between 7,000 and negative 218,000? Well, let's think about this. Let's choose a different color. Alright, so what is the distance from here to here to 0? This is 7,000 degrees, alright? And the distance from negative 218 to 0 is 218 degrees Celsius. So the question is, how much is between here and here? Well, if this amount is 7,000 and this amount is 218, the distance between the lowest point and the highest point would just be 7,000 plus 218, which equals 7,218 degrees Celsius. So the difference between the two extremes in temperature is 7,218. Please pause it. I will also go ahead and explain it another way. Alright, another way you can approach this problem is by looking at the vocabulary. So the vocabulary that they used was the word difference. I'll go ahead and circle it. And as you recall, difference means to subtract. So we're going to subtract the 7,000 degrees minus the negative 218. This subtraction sign came because it says difference. This minus sign right here is because the temperature was negative. I'll erase this a little bit so you can see that the temperature is a negative temperature. So the distance between these two would be 7,000 minus 218. Well, when you have two back-to-back negatives, that becomes a plus. So 7,000 plus 218 is once again 7,218 degrees Celsius. So the difference between those two, or the distance between those two, difference and distance are the same thing, is 7,218. All right, moving right along, number 9. What value of x makes 13 minus negative x negative 9 true? So I'm going to rewrite this problem. And they just want to know, what is x, or what is 13 minus negative 9? Well, remember, when you have two back-to-back negatives, it makes a positive. So we want to know what 13 plus 9 is. So we're going to add 13 and 9, and we're going to get 22. So x is equal to 22. Okay, it says, what is x in order to make this a true statement? It's just pretty much saying solve. And what we did was solve, and 22 is our answer. 13 minus negative 9 is equal to 22. Okay, if it was equal to anything else, it would not be a true statement. It would be a false statement. All right, number 10. What value of n makes negative 7 parentheses 4 equals n a true statement? So pretty much, what is n? Well, please note that this right here, this problem is a multiplication, because there's no sign right here between the parentheses and the number. So if you want to put something, you can put a little dot so that you know that you're going to multiply. And now we're going to multiply. Negative 7 times 4. Well, since we're multiplying and dividing, we can use the mat triangle. 7 is negative, 4 is positive. So the answer is going to be negative. And 7 times 4 is, not 28, not 24, it is 28. So the answer is negative 28. All right, next one, number 11. What value of t makes negative 2 plus negative 11 equals t a true statement? So what is negative 2 plus 11? All right, let's look at the scoreboard method. The 2 was scored by the negative team, and so was the 11. So the final score is 0 points for the positive team and 13 points for the negative team. So the answer is the negative team won by 13 points. So negative 13 is the answer. All right, number 12. What value makes negative 24 minus negative 13 equals W a true statement? All right, so remember, if you have two back-to-back negatives, that makes a plus. All right, now let's go ahead and use the scoreboard method here. There's a positive team and a negative team. The negative team scored 24 points, and the positive team scored 13. So we want to know which team won. And as you can see, the negative team scored more points, so the negative team won. And if I subtract, we know that the negative team won by 11 points. So the answer is negative 11. There's something that I want to tell you, but I can't remember. It came to my mind. Like, oh, make sure. I'll let you know if it comes back. All right. Number 13. Number 13, we're just solving these. Evaluate just means to find the value of. So what is the value of? What is the value of negative 11 minus negative 3? Remember, two back-to-back negatives make a plus. So we have negative 11 plus 3. Scoreboard method. So there's a positive team and a negative team. 11 was scored by the negatives, 3 was scored by the positives, so the negative team won by 8 points. So the answer here is negative 8. Alright, next one. Negative 25 plus negative 12. So negative 25 plus negative 12. Alright, so let's do the scoreboard method. 25 is negative. And if I look at the 12 is also negative. So let's see who won. The negative team won. The final score was 0 points. The positive didn't score any, so 0 points. Negative team scored 37 points, so the negative team won by 37. Alright, hopefully you can tell what operation this next one is. It says 8 parentheses negative 11. So we did all these. Alright, now we're here. And it says 8 parentheses negative 11. Remember, if there's nothing here, you can put a times so that you remember that that's multiplication. Alright, so 8 times 11 is 88. And now we need to determine whether or not this is going to be a positive or a negative answer. Sorry about that. Alright, remember when we multiply and divide, we're going to use a mat triangle. So since 8 is positive, I'll cover the positive. Since 11 is negative, I'll cover the negative. Whatever sign's left over is the sign of your answer, so the answer is negative 88. We are almost done, even though it says 5 pages. Alright, let's move on with our lives. Alright, number 18. Let's get rid of that. Alright, number 18 says negative 3 to the second power. Alright, since we have an exponent, it tells us to write everything that's in parentheses. In this case, we're going to write it 2 times. Okay, as you can see right here, the exponent tells you how many times to write the negative 3. So we're writing negative 3 twice, and this is going to be multiplication. So I'll go ahead and put a little dot so I know to multiply. So it is negative 3 times negative 3. Well, since we're multiplying or dividing, we're going to use a mat triangle. 3 is negative. So I'll cancel out the negative. The other 3 is negative, which leaves us with a positive answer, so positive 9. Okay, make sure that as you're going through this, that you're doing it to learn and to get understanding and clarification. If at any point you're not sure what's going on and just mindlessly copying, I need you to just start over and make sure you understand how to do these. You have a test tomorrow and you can do it. Alright, let's erase this. Alright, number 19. We have negative 6 divided by negative 3. Remember, if it's a fraction, that represents division. Okay, using the mat triangle, we covered up the eyes. We're left with the mouth. So the answer is positive 2. Alright, number 20. We have negative 7 parentheses 5. Remember, if there's no sign right here, we can go ahead and put a dot so we remember it's multiplication. 7 times 5 is 35, using the mat triangle since we're multiplying. If you're multiplying and divide, remember we're going to use this mat triangle. So 7 is negative, 5 is positive, so the sign that's left over is the answer sign. So negative 35. And this one was positive 2. Alright, number 21. Looks like another, hopefully you recognize it as multiplication. So negative 6 parentheses negative 4. Remember, there's nothing here. We'll put a dot. Let's go ahead and multiply. 6 times 4 is 24. If I use the mat triangle where the eyes are negative and the mouth is a positive, we will cover up the eye. since the 6 is negative and the 4 is also negative. So the other I, so we're left with the positive here. So positive 24. All right, we're almost done. Let's erase this. All right, number 22, we have 15 minus a negative y. Oops, that's a y. All right, so in this case, y is 6. So I'm going to say 15 minus a negative 6. Remember that two back-to-back negatives make a plus, so we really have 15 plus 6. All right, no special rules needed here. You know that 15 plus 6 is just simply added to get 21. All right, next one. Next one for number 23. All right, 23, we have 20 divided by x. Well, in this case, x is negative 4. So we got 20 divided by negative 4. Now notice I put the negative in parentheses, and that's because you don't want a sign next to another sign. So we don't want a division sign next to a negative sign, so we have to put the parentheses. Or it's just general practice, actually, to put the parentheses. All right, remember when we divide, we're going to use the mat triangle. So 20 was positive and 4 was negative, which leaves us with a negative answer. And 4 times 5 is 20, so 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. All right, and this one was 21. Let's do 24 now. All right, for 24, we have 7 plus z. In this case, z is negative 3, so 7 plus negative 3. Don't forget that when we add and subtract, we're going to go ahead and use the scoreboard method. 7 is positive, 3 is negative. So the positive team won. Well, how much did they win by? They won by 4. 7 minus 3 is 4. Another way you could have done this is you could have started off at 7 on the number line. Let me draw a few of these out. Alright, so number line goes in both directions. If I start at if I start at 7 and to go in the negative direction, or that means to the left 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, we end up here at at positive 4. So the answer to 24 is positive 4. 25, we have negative 2, parentheses 3z. Remember, if there's nothing between the parentheses and the number in front, you can put a dot for multiplication. All right, we can go ahead and drop the parentheses because it doesn't matter the order that we multiply anyway, so we'll just drop everything down. And same thing here, if you see a number next to a letter or a number next to a variable, you're just going to put a dot so we know that we're multiplying. So we're actually multiplying this whole thing out. But instead of z, we're going to substitute it in with negative 3. So it'll be like this, negative 2 times 3 times z, which was negative 3. You don't need those parentheses around the negative 3, but remember to separate the signs, this multiplication sign and this negative sign, we'll just put the parentheses there. All right, we can only multiply 2 numbers at a time. So if I'm using the mat triangle, because we're multiplying, 2 is negative, 3 is positive, our remaining sign is negative, so the answer is negative. 2 times 3 makes 6. Bring down this negative 3, bring down the times sign. In this case now, we have a 6, which is negative, and the 3 is also negative. So we're left with a positive answer. And 6 times 3 is 18. All right, next one. I'm going to erase everything. Is that okay? If not, then just rewind it. There, that's better. Number 26, we have x plus y. In this case, x is negative 4 plus y. Y was 6. Scoreboard method, since we're adding or subtracting. 4 is negative, 6 is positive. So the positive team scored more points. And how many did they win by? Well, if you subtract 6 minus 4, you're going to get 2. So the positive team won by 2. All right, another way of looking at this is negative could mean I owe the bank money. If I owe the bank $4 and then put $6 in my account, now I have $2. All right. Let's delete all this. Go to our last and final page. Remember, for the next page, you're going to need this information. X is -4, Y is 6. So I'll write that right here before I forget. X is -4, Y was equal to 6. And that was the information on the previous page. So you can go back and look at that if you need to. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and write the problem, xy over 12. If there's no sign right here between the two letters, we can put times. Okay, we can only put a times between two letters, not between two numbers. Like the number 12 is just 12. Alright, but xy means x times y. So in that case, it's -4 times 6 all over 12. Well, in the order of operations, we'll go ahead and simplify the top part. So using mat triangle here, 4 is negative, 6 is positive. Our answer is what's left over, so negative 6 times 4 is 24. Divided by 12. And we're going to go ahead and use the mat triangle one more time. We're going to use the mat triangle one more time because we're dividing here. We always use the mat triangle when we multiply and divide. So 24 is negative, 12 is positive, so which leaves us with a negative answer. So that's -2. Alright, homework tonight is to make sure you are ready for tomorrow's test. Please go through the practice test version 3 for additional practice. Finish that for homework. And also take the initiative, please, to go over anything that you have already identified either through the practice test or through the reflections that you guys have been doing and submitting to me through Google Classroom. Use all of those resources to help you study. Take out the book, do odd problems, all the odd answers are on the back. So please, all right, you deserve it, and you can do this. So kick butt, take names. I'm proud of you. Study hard. Bye.